everybody, today we're going to talk about some reverse culture shocks that my entire family experienced when we went back to the United States to visit family on our last Christmas. Stay tuned.
Come along as my Danish husband and our two kids show this American what it means to live a life in Denmark. My New Danish Life.
Hi there and welcome back. If you're new to my channel, my name is Kelly and I'm an American who lives in Denmark. Now, I've lived in Denmark for 6 years now, and the thing is that we try to go back to the US quite often to visit, but with Corona, we weren't able to visit as much as we'd like to. And in fact, when we went to visit for Christmas, it had been 2.5 years since we had been to the US, since we had seen any of my family members. And I have to say it was really quite funny because we had some cultural shocks, reverse culture shocks when we went back. You know, things that we had once been used to, but we had forgotten about, or my kids just, didn't remember because maybe they were younger the last time that they were in the US. Now, when we were in the US, my kids were 11 and 9. And when we had moved, obviously that was 6 years before. So, the thing is that they might not exactly remember what it's like to live there, but they have visited a few times since then. So they do remember some of these things, but it was really funny of the things that they didn't remember. It just surprised me. Now, before we get started with that, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you along as a subscriber. Also, don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Instagram, where I show you more of an insight on what it is like to live my new Danish life. And if you have actually seen one of my later videos, one that I posted more recently, talking about how my kids are more Danish than American. And those are kind of the questions that they were asking me before we went to the US for this last trip. And, kind of like, Mom, is it like this in the US? And Mom, is it like this? Because they had forgotten. It'd been such a long time. And so that kind of goes along with this. But these were things that they didn't even remember, to ask me questions about. One of them was my younger son went into the bathroom. And there were two things that quite shocked him, which, to me, it actually kind of surprised me because, again, I wasn't used to it. One thing is that in the US, we have much more water in our toilets. I would say that in Denmark, it's enough to kind of fill the bottom. But in the US, there's quite a lot of water in there. It's like a little fish bowl. And, at first that kind of surprised me, but it really surprised my kids. Like, why is there so much water in the toilet? And then the other thing is that my son was, coming out of the bathroom, and then he came up to me really quietly and he says, Mom, I don't know how to flush. Because normally there's like a button on the top of the toilet or there's a button on the wall in Denmark. But in the US, we have kind of like this little lever. And it's not on the top, it's more like on the side of the toilet. So they just have to push the lever down. And at first, he didn't know how long he had to hold it down or which way to push it. And it was just really quite funny because he'd forgotten, yeah. Another one, if we look at my older son, I would have to say there were more culture shocks with my younger son, or maybe he's just more vocal. We'll talk about some of those later. But with my older son, we went out to quite a few restaurants because there's so many different types of food that we were just really missing. And we had a lot of restaurants on our list where we were saying, oh yeah, we're going there. Different types of food, different places that we used to go to all the time that we really missed. And my older son, he found out that first restaurant had free refills. And to be quite honest, most places in the US will have free refills. And so when we were there, and he got this huge drink, by the way, and he was about towards the end. And normally in Denmark, we just say, you only get one drink because they're much more expensive. And of course, they're much smaller. And I said, so you gotta, steady yourselves. But, he drank this whole huge glass of lemonade, and then, the waitress brought him another one. Didn't even ask. brought another one. He looked at it, he looked at me, he looked at the waitress, and he's like, what? And I said, it's free refills. And I mean, if he could have jumped out of like his skin, he would have, because it was the most shocking thing for him. Yeah, maybe when he was younger, when we were in the US, he probably didn't drink so much. I don't know. He probably never got a refill. But that was one thing that he was just, every place we went to after that, are there free refills? Are there free refills? Every place we went, that was like the question on his mind, because he was just so fascinated with drinking as much as he possibly could. And he just, yeah, I mean, I know they have lemonade here in Denmark, but I think it's more common to find like Huleblomst or like apple juice on the drink menu than maybe lemonade. But everywhere we went, obviously in the US, lemonade is very popular. So it was, I think those two things, he talks about it even now. He's like, oh man, that lemonade. A couple others, my younger son, again, we were driving, okay? So the US is quite large and my family is spread out. So when we go back to the US, we have to go to a variety of places to see people, because we don't know when we're gonna get back there, right? And so we're driving 6 hours from my sister's house to my grandmother's house, because that's how long it takes. In Denmark, that would be like going to another country, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, that's so far. But we used to take that drive a lot for a weekend. We would do that we would leave on Friday after school, and we would come back Sunday late at night, I mean, we did that quite often. So for me, taking these long drives was not that big a deal, And that's not the reverse culture shock, for our family. What it was is that when we were driving, there would be maybe 2 lanes here, and then there'd be some like grass in between, and then there'd be 2 lanes on the other side. And my younger son was saying, why is it not so pretty here? Where are all the flowers and the bushes and everything? And I'm like, well, this is a really long road here, buddy. This highway goes a long way, and we're on it for a lot of hours. I mean, driving all the way across Indiana is not very entertaining. And so it's just grass, it's not going to be these beautiful flowers. But again, we were there in December, so I don't know. But he was just very kind of surprised how lacking of plants there were. And again, we were in the northern part of the Midwest. It's cold. A lot of the plants are like dead in the winter time. And I think that was one thing that, I was thinking about that when I first came to Denmark, even in December. My very first trip to Denmark was December of 2007. And I could not get over how green it was. Normally, like in the US, everything gets really cold. And I mean like really cold. Like you wouldn't, experience that type of cold here in Denmark, like what we would experience from where I'm from in the United States. And it would just be like dead grass, because a lot of times it'd be under the snow for a very long period of time. And so I'm wondering if it kind of has to do with that, because in Denmark, it's very temperate. It stays kind of a mild temperature throughout the year for the most part. And yeah, but I thought that was really kind of funny how, he paid attention to nature. With that one, there's another one where, when we were driving kind of the same trip, and there was off the highway or off the road or whatever, he would see like this big store, and it would have a giant parking lot, because it would be, I don't know, off of a major road. And there would be all these lights on the parking lot, but there weren't any cars. And he goes, Mom, why aren't there any cars in that store? And I go, oh, it's probably closed. And he goes, well, why are the lights on in the parking lot then? I mean, like, these are things like, when I moved to Denmark, I was so surprised how there weren't lights anywhere, and I get it. It's to save energy. Yeah, I don't know why we don't do that in the US. Maybe because they're a little afraid of, if the lights aren't on, then it's easier for somebody to break in somewhere, which is kind of unfortunate. I don't really know the reasoning, but it's so interesting, the things that he's noticing. The reverse culture shock in the US were the exact things that I noticed when I moved to Denmark. So it's kind of like we are on opposite ends, of the spectrum there. But yeah, that's something that you see a lot of in the US is that, buildings, I wouldn't say that they would be lit inside, but there would be some type of light on inside and the parking lots would be lit. Yeah, but that's not always the case. That's not always the case, but yeah. For me, my big kind of shock is, I've been a vegetarian now for 27 years, and my family had to kind of get used to me being a vegetarian. I mean, I started when I was a teenager. I would say through my 20s, my mom was trying to get an idea of what do I feed this girl. But I'm in my 40s now, so we've got it all figured out. But I've actually been trying to live more like a vegan. I wouldn't say I'm full-fledged vegan because I cheat more often than I should. I don't cheat as a vegetarian, but I do cheat as a vegan because I don't know. I mean, cakes and stuff taste quite nice, and I'm not gonna care what's in them. But the thing is that I knew going back to the U.S. it would be very difficult to be a vegan because they put cheese on everything. And it's so funny because, I didn't realize it. I remember coming to Denmark and I would have like cheese out, for breakfast because you do that on your lunchstykke sometimes. And then we would have cheese out on the table. Not to say that I would eat it, but it would be there because when I first moved to Denmark and being vegetarian, it was quite tricky at first of what can I, use for pole, right? And it's like, what can I put on my bread for lunchtime? So I had a lot of varieties. I didn't always eat the cheese, but it was always on the table for lunch. And, and then like slowly but surely, I kind of stopped eating eggs and I stopped eating cheese. And I've never been one to drink milk. I've never been one to eat yogurt or any of that kind of stuff. So it's always, there have always been some vegan tendencies for like the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. But I knew I couldn't be full-fledged vegan when I went back because I was staying with my family. Sure, I can choose and go to the grocery store and then pick, foods and stuff. There are so many varieties of vegan and vegetarian food in the American supermarkets. But it was just kind of a, and I love these foods, right? I love the macaroni and cheese and, it's like all these things that, like the stuffed manicotti we always have on Christmas Eve, like these very large shells with cheese and stuff in them. It's almost like a ravioli, but it could be like mixed. I know in Italy, they call it a cannoli. I don't know why in the US we call it manicotti, but, these things, it's like a comfort food, right? So I knew that I would be eating as a vegetarian instead of as a vegan, but it was so hard on my stomach. I can't tell you how many digestive issues the family had with the amount of cheese that we ate during our trip. So it was quite a shock. And, the next time we go to the US, I'm curious to see if there are more reverse culture shocks that we have. I know it's more going to come from my kids and probably more coming from my younger son, who was 3 when we moved to Denmark. But I get a kick out of it, really. And it's also showing me how used to living in Denmark that I am. I don't know. It's like the more time people say, oh, why do you live in that small town? And, we have an old house. Everything's kind of like traditional where we live. But it's just, to me, it's really cozy. It's just really kind of cozy. The life that I have here in Denmark. So it's kind of like there are a lot of things that I missed, but I'm starting to really, I know, right? After 6 years, it's taken me a long time to feel more at home in Denmark than kind of alienated and an outsider. I think when I first moved here, there were so many walls I was putting up and like, there's so much that I miss. And of course, you can't replace the people that are in the US. You can't replace them. You know, like family members and friends and like the experiences and the social lives and entertainment. I mean, yeah, we don't get that in this town. But I do appreciate the things that we do have here. And it's just really kind of funny how I am starting, I don't want to say that I'm becoming more Danish because that's most definitely not true, but I'm becoming more comfortable with my life here in Denmark to where, you know, I go places and I'm ready to come home. You know, I'm ready to come back to Denmark. I'm not ready to watch Danish TV. I'm not ready for, you know, to have a Danish conversation with my Jysk neighbors that it's very difficult to understand, but you know, there are these comforts of home that I feel that I'm a little bit more used to than I was before. So there you have it. There's a little bit of a look into our life of what was it like when we went back to the US, and I'm sure there were more, you know, that I'm just not thinking of right now, right? Can't always remember everything all the time. But I have been quite busy lately with my blog. So if you haven't been seeing me on here as much, it's because I'm over there on my blog and I'm on Facebook and Instagram. So you can always find me over there. So if you're ever like, hey, when are you going to make another video? Or hey, here's the topic that you should be talking about. You know, we'd really love to hear your ideas on it. Make sure you guys are, you know, putting your thoughts in the comments, finding me on my other channels, finding me on Tales from the Campsite, my new blog about all of our camping and travels. I would really love to see you guys over there. And I got so many tips. So if you are Danish and you want to get out, I'm kind of writing more from the perspective of a Danish family and what kind of things that we're finding and how these places may be a little different than what you would experience here in Denmark. So thanks for coming along in this video. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all your support. And again, don't forget to subscribe. As always, take care.